Russia's president, with a wink and a nod, admit to hacking our election? I want to discuss this now with Neda Bakos, a former CIA analyst, Matthew Murray, the Deputy Assistant Commerce Secretary for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa in the Obama administration, and CNN national security analyst Steve Hall, retired chief of CIA Russian operations. He joins us tonight via Skype. Good evening to all of you. Steve Hall, I'm going to start with you, because Vladimir Putin today conceded that Russians, though not the Kremlin, may have been involved in the election, the hacking of this election, which he had previously denied. Listen to this.
Hackers are free people, just like artists. They wake up in a good mood and paint things. Same with hackers. They woke up today, read something about the state-to-state relations. If they are patriotic, they contribute in a way they think is right, to fight against those who say bad things about Russia.
So, Steve, why would he change his tune now?
Well, because he can. I mean, this is Russian propaganda. It's Russian activity in Russian, so active measures. It started back in 2007, probably the first time that they really had a shot at doing some good cyber stuff in Estonia. And what did they say? No, it wasn't us. It was patriotic Russians who were upset about the situation in Estonia. They did it next year in Georgia. Now we're seeing it in Ukraine. And so, you know, this is something that's really nice about having covert operations, is it provides the state with deniability, which is exactly what's going on here. But the second thing that is really, that Putin and the Russians are really good at, is playing on our own value system. I mean, there's going to be people in the West and in the United States who go, yeah, you know, maybe hackers are kind of like artists. They get up in the morning, and who's going to limit their free activities? It's an open society. The problem is that's not the way it works in Russia. Putin knows where all of these people are, and if he wanted to, he could reach out and find out what computers they're using and stop them, but he didn't. So it's all just pretty much more of the same from Putin and the Kremlin.
Neda, I've heard that this is the closest that Putin will come to actually confessing that Russia had something to do with our elections. Does it seem like, you know, maybe the trail of evidence is getting closer and closer to him, and he's doing it now?
I mean, it certainly seems like it. And you know, akin to what Steve was saying, where this started in 2007 overseas, when they're influencing other campaigns and other propaganda efforts, looking at what they did in the United States. You know, obvious measures were starting here in 2014, pushing Russia foreign policy measures. I mean, that doesn't seem like a typical artisanal hacker thing to do, is pushing the Kremlin's bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Why would it be patriotic, or a patriotic Russian thing to do, to interfere in the election, Neda?
Well, I don't think necessarily it would be a patriotic option for just the average person who's, you know, struggling to survive, maybe looking for a job. But I would think, you know, if you put yourself in their shoes, they would be doing something that would then help Russia itself. So when you look at these groups and these hackers, they're at least 2 degrees or more separated from probably the Kremlin and the Russian government. And as Steve said, that's a great covert operation. So they have plausible deniability. They've deployed these people in a concerted way so that their social media influence campaigns have been directed and very strategic. Yeah.
I have to ask you a similar question, Matthew, than I asked Steve. I asked Steve, why do you think he changes to now? My question to you is, he has denied this for a while. Why do you think he opened the door like this today?
I think it's important to look at his statement in light of what he is, the signal he's also sending to those artistic hackers. And essentially, he's endorsing their activity and at the same time giving them license to do more such activity. And, you know, I think it's best to understand his comments in light of an aggressive foreign policy that's based on a new doctrine known as the New Generation Warfare Doctrine that Russia has adopted in order to fight what have become known as hybrid wars, in which they can go into places like Estonia, Georgia, Ukraine, and other countries, and without appearing to be fighting a war, take very concerted efforts to destabilize the situation. And so, as both Steve and Neda have indicated, this is part of that playbook. And the president has artfully, in front of a huge audience. By the way, he's made these statements at a press conference in St. Petersburg against the backdrop of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, which is the annual event in which Russia makes a sort of state of the Russian economy address, invites foreign investors to invest in their economy and to buy into the Putin narrative. And so, in effect, I see this as an affront. I see this statement far from being a kind of admission or a compromise. I see it as a direct challenge to our president, and I don't think it should go unanswered. I think it's high time that President Trump stop equivocating about whether he thinks that Russia interfered with our election, and that he should, in response to President Putin's statement, he should make it very clear that he accepts the intelligence community's conclusions.
Yeah, well, good luck.
So.
Good luck with that. And here's what Vladimir Putin said earlier. More of it.
I can imagine that someone is doing this purposefully, building the chain of attack so that the territory of Russian Federation appears to be the source of that attack. Modern technologies allow to do that kind of thing.
So, Steve, given your experience in the intelligence world, what do you make of his explanation?
Yeah, this is, again, Don, this is more plausible deniability, as Nana said. I mean, this is, you know, what Putin can do is he can spin all sorts of different explanations and reasons why, and, you know, this and that to show that, you know, hey, it really wasn't the Russian government that was responsible for this. And, you know, it's pretty clear from the forensics done by our own intelligence community that it was indeed not just Russians, but the Russian government, notably the Russian intelligence services. So, but you're asking the right question, which is, okay, why is he talking about this now? Why did he sort of allow it to say, okay, well, you know, maybe it was Russian, but it wasn't Russian government? And it could be simply that, you know, the forensic evidence is just so strong that it's kind of silly to continue to say it had absolutely nothing to do with Russia. And so the fallback position as well. We just have good patriots in this country who are concerned in Russia, who are concerned about all these horrible things that are happening in the United States and in the West, and they took it upon themselves to do this because they're artists, and this is what they do. It's poppycock.
So, Nada, do they know what evidence we have?
That's a good question. I would think they'd have a, you know, somewhat of an idea. I mean, we've been talking about this openly in media now for quite some time. We've had open testimony on the Hill. I don't know whether or not they understand the technical data behind the evidence and what the United States would have, but I would think they would be able to assume how we would trace this back to them.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. When we come back,